Remember right, we began with a finger to form our depth, then we went to the great big egg to get all the raw material out. Now, I go in here with a small egg because the texture of the giant 9/16 egg is just too choppy. I mean, you're looking at a guy here that totally believes in rough surfaces on the intake side on carbureted and a lot of fuel injected stuff up to a point, but that's just too rough. So I go in here with my smaller egg, and basically what that does is this smaller one will blend the corners where the depth was set from where the big chunks of raw material was removed, and it just it forms a really good blend. I come all the way up to about 1/4 of an inch to the edge with this. And it really does a really nice job on getting the blend correct like it's supposed to be and taking all the big rough edges out of it. Okay? And now in just a second, I'm going to switch back to the finger for the fine tuning to get the edges exactly perfect. And when I do that, I'm going to show you a couple of measurements that are interesting concerning the 1206 gasket. And one thing I can tell you, this intake manifold will not be a pinch point to the cylinder head. In other words, with what I've done and the incredible amount of material I've had to cut out of this to make a 1206 reel, which a lot of people say you can't make a 1206 reel out of a dual plane intake, at least an Edelbrock Performer RPM, they're wrong. They're looking at the gasket size. If you go off of gasket size dimension, they might be partially right. But you're not getting the gasket size on the cylinder head. We got to look at real world because we don't want to shape change where it's big, gets small, gets big, and then gets small again. We don't want this mess. We want one transition of big to its point and then back spread out. That's what we're after, and you can achieve this with it. So while, you know, I'm a single plane fan myself, think of the amount of torque with a 245cc ProMaxx 2100 head on a 406-inch motor, off idle till say 6,000, 6,200, or mainly in the 55 to 62 range, that this dual plane is going to make. Okay, it might not have the raw high-end power of an open plenum, but golly, in that range right there, it ought to be just flat out devastating. It wouldn't surprise me if it capped 450 foot-pounds, 460 in that range, and that's quite a chunk of torque. So anyway, I'm going to switch now from the egg to the finger and do my touch-up. I'm just going to show you a couple of things on the gasket shape and size, how we get it to feed the ProMaxx head, and then that concludes the ProMaxx on film, apart from the website. Now that we're to the last part, I just wanted to show you how I always leave a little bit of line. Let me try to zoom in on it. I always try to leave just a little bit there, so that way I can come back in here with my finger burr and touch it up and make a perfect entrance. Because, I mean, I know this is mainly cosmetic, but you want to hand somebody something that looks perfect like a CNC machine done it as close to as possible. And you always go back in there an inch or two. Because this really feathers it and blends it really well. Alright, so there you go. Now, that right there, there's still just barely a touch of line left. I like to leave that in there. I do that for a reason. I like to leave a little bit of line so that it's inside the dimension. But now, like I was talking about earlier, let's take a look at something else here.